What's up, everybody? Jaxxsin here, and I've got a critique and review today on one of my all-time top favorite games I've ever played ever. Okay, and I'm talking about Salt and Sanctuary by Scott Studios. Now, this game is fucking amazing. Okay, let me tell you just a little bit of my background real quick, super fast. Fucking first RPG I ever remember playing was Zelda 2, The Adventures of Link, right? And fucking, I remember that I couldn't play it because it was my brother's, and he was kind of a dick about it. But every now and then, he would be like, just to keep me quiet and just have me shut up, he'd put it in and he'd throw in, he'd just take me somewhere and he'd be like, just kill stuff, level me up. And I remember, like, the gratification of getting all those points and then, almost dying but making it back to the town and getting health, and getting refilled and then going back out there and, that thrill of almost getting game over and losing everything that you've just earned, you know what I mean? And like, so that's like, I love RPGs. That's kind of my first experience with them. So I've always been kind of drawn to the Souls formula by FromSoft, right? Now, in my personal opinion, Demon Souls is better than Dark Souls. Demon Souls is more, I don't know, there's just something about it that's like, the difficulty is less trolly. I'll say that. Okay, yeah, definitely that. It's less trolly. Like, it's not unreasonable. Okay? That's the thing about the difficulty in games. Like, I've got no problem. Like, give me, like, places where there's enemies that'll kill me with 3 hits, you know what I mean? But don't add fucking 14 things shooting darts at me, and then have it be like 13 of those enemies, and then, like, there's differences, right? There's differences between super challenging, difficult, and fucking just straight up dick-headed trolling shit, okay? Now, this game, one of my critiques before I even get into all the things I love about it, but let me just start out. This game takes a little bit more of a cue from that sort of style, like the Dark Souls style. There's a lot of cues from Bloodborne, a lot of cues from Demon Souls. Bloodborne, where it's kind of like it's more interconnected, it's tightly woven together, the whole area of the map. And the more you progress, like, they make it kind of easy for you to see that, oh, okay, you know what I mean? And there's like this light bulb moment when you're like, oh, I remember I was here fucking like 5-6 bosses ago, because there's 23 bosses in this game. There's 23 bosses in this game, and they're all as challenging as the last, and they can all have you raging, They're bosses in their right, dude. They're legit game bosses, okay? And that's where it feels more connected to Bloodborne, where there is that, like, very tight-knit map style where everything sort of makes sense, and, like, it's less confusing than the Souls games. And then, but wherein the Souls games were really trolly, this takes cues from that. And I feel like the boss models are a little more like Souls, where there's times where there's bosses where you're not able to go fast full bore, like in Bloodborne, where you could get in and, like, rage your stamina out, you know what I mean? But there's bosses in this that you can do that too, right? But there's also these bosses that are super trolly, that have these fucking spam these attacks that make them so you can't really hit them because it's unsafe. The Kraken Dragon is a perfect example, the Ronin Kran, and these bosses are really frustrating to me personally, because I hate bosses that get in this rhythm of just spamming certain attacks over and over again that complicate your ability to hit them so much to the point so that you're kind of just waiting for them to do that one special attack so you can finally hit them, you know what I mean? And so that was one of the issues I had with it. And with that said, I mean, the thing is like, if you're gonna pay homage to FromSoft the way that I feel like Scott Studios wanted to, I feel like they wanted this to be the ultimate homage to the the Souls formula and its fucking legacy, and and the FromSoft legacy. And it does this on so many levels, it's ridiculous. But if you're going to have it be an homage to all of those games, it doesn't matter me personally if I don't find, like Dark Souls as enjoyable as Demon Souls, or, Dark Souls 2 as enjoyable as Bloodborne, you know what I mean? It doesn't matter, because that's personal taste, and lots of people love Dark Souls 1 and Dark Souls 2. You know what I mean? People love those fucking games, right? And so you gotta pay homage to that. You can't just take, like certain things from certain games just because I personally, like, that's why that's really not a critique. It's more of just a personal preference sort of thing. Like, in my taste, I don't like bosses that spam stupid fucking attacks that make it so I can't attack them for fucking, you know, until they do that one attack I'm waiting for. That shit bothers me. That's personal preference, but it does pay homage to the Souls games because there's a lot of bosses like that that are very complicated and tricky. Now, let's see, how else does it, you know, okay, so let's just talk about common enemies, alright? They're all very fucking wicked looking. Everything in this game has an amazing art book. Like, I mean, an art style to it. It's like, okay, the reason I say art book is because I was like talking to my friend, I'm like, this is like looking into the mind of like a child prodigy who's depressed and seeing their sketchbook. Like, I know that sounds probably crazy or whatever, but I like to think that like this is just, it feels like that. But there's also like the adventure to it, and there's like these cool fucking NPCs that they progress with the story, and that's another way it reminds me of like, it's okay. You could just basically look at this game, and having not known that Ska Studios had made it and that FromSoft was not involved at all, you would assume that they had made it. All right, you wouldn't, because it's that legit and true to the Souls formula, the Souls fucking, you know, franchise. This thing is a very, very good game. Alright? And, I mean, regardless of how you feel about this, the combat and the side-scrolling, I mean, that goes back to personal taste, and you may not enjoy it as much. To me, it's almost like, oh my god, I feel like it's just like, it's on so many levels, I love it. It hits my nostalgia, but it also hits that like love I have for that challenge that you get from the Souls game, and the love you get from taking down a boss that you've been working on, you can't kill him, and you know he's just a pain in the ass, and he's there just to get you to rage quit the game and walk away, and you finally take him down, and that feeling you get, and you're like, oh yes! That feeling is the shit, and I love that feeling. So, to me personally, this game did it for me. On so many levels, even despite the trolley bullshit that I felt was a little excessive. And I mean, there's jump puzzles. I mean, this game is, you know, you're not gonna find a lot of people getting a lot of this game beat, because it's gonna test a lot of people's patience to the point where, you know, most people will stop. It's almost, you know, and it's exactly like Dark Souls in that way. Like Dark Souls, dude, Dark Souls tested my, you know, it was I can't even remember the boss's name, but you walk in there and he's got the two fucking dogs, and it's in that narrow courtyard, and you gotta hurry and run to the left and up the stairs and, you know, kill the dogs, drop off, and rinse and repeat. You gotta just keep, you know, doing that shit. Alright, so it was, I was on that boss for about 2 hours, and I finally beat him, and once I beat him, I was like, this is dumb and I'm done. That was it. Like, that was the last straw. I was like, you're making a boss that immediately when I come in, the frames kick my ass. Because there's two dogs and a dude swinging that big ass fucking sword at me, you know, and like, ooh. So like, you know, these games do that though. These games are built to do that. There's things that are built just to test your patience and test your ability as a player within that game, and see if you give a fuck enough to push through it. You know what I mean? And so like, this game is definitely going to test a lot of people. And there's places in this game that a lot of people aren't even going to go to. Like, I guarantee you, there's some of these jump puzzles that are such a pain in the ass that like my old schooly ass was having a fucking pain, and I was having a pain with them. They're so fucking confusing. And there's one area where if you actually fall down off of the jump puzzle, there's these enemies that look like twisted unicorns, and they like drive their fucking heads through your chest and kill you, and it's a one shot, right? And so like, you know, these are areas that are memorable enough that I would venture to say that a lot of people are not going to finish this game. They're going to stop, and they're going to be like, this is stupid. They're going to rage quit. You know what I mean? Because it takes a lot of patience, and do you give a shit? That's what the point, like, do you like the game enough to say, okay, you know? And that's the thing, is like, Dark Souls 1 wasn't really my style. Like, Demon Souls, I made it a lot farther before I said, fuck this. I honestly said, fuck this, because I put it down for a little bit too long. I came back to it, and I couldn't even remember what the fuck I had been doing. And I just don't care to start over, you know what I mean? But I remember I had enjoyed it up to where I was at. I just, like, trailed out, and I think I had been playing Rocket League with friends or something, like, hardcore for a few weeks, and I tried to go back to it, and I just couldn't get back into it. You know what I mean? That's why Dark Souls 2, I beat it in 3 days. I'm like, I'm not gonna fucking sit here and pick at a game like this. I'm gonna beat it fast and get it over with, or I'm not gonna beat it at all. You know what I mean? And so, because I'll lose interest. I'll come back to it, and you're fucking rusty, because you build up, and the game does an excellent job of doing that. Like, these games do an excellent job of doing that. I'd say this game and like Bloodborne, games like that a little bit more than the Dark Souls games. Demon Souls does as well. But there's like, I mean, Dark Souls definitely does a little bit in Dark Souls 2, but in Dark Souls 1, man, I felt like it was just, it went from fucking like, you know, reasonable to out fucking rageous, like in 2 seconds. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like it should go from from reasonable to fucking, you know, sorta unreasonable to just outrageous, and that's fine, but you get the fucking character time to not only level up and get new gear and, you know, be able to handle it. You give the player the time he needs, or she needs, in order to, you know, like, become acquainted with the game and become familiar with the game, because you have to do that. Like even Bloodborne, like, I haven't played Bloodborne in about 3 months, right? Or not that long, about a month or so. But if I tried to go back to Bloodborne right now, like, I would get my ass kicked. I'd go back to like New Game Plus 3 or whatever I'm on, right? On this new character that I started for the DLC that I just played the shit out of. Okay, so I go back to him. You think I'm not going to get my ass kicked on the first boss I come up against? I'm going to. Because it doesn't matter how long I've played that game or how much time I've spent in that game. The difficulty in a Souls game is such that you have to fucking hit that gradual slope. Like, if you're starting with that game from the middle point and you haven't played it in like a few months, you know, it's definitely doable, but it's going to be fucking so much more frustrating than if you just start over, right? And so, like, this game right here it's just like I saying, man, like, it's just the perfect representative of that style, like, that difficult, I mean, I would say unreasonable at points, unfair, you know what I mean, but at the same time, there's ways that you can buff your character and you're always leveling up. And they've added this new thing where you get gold as well, and it just works so well because the gold ends up paying for, like, you can actually buy salt pouches with it. So you know, you're farming not only gold and salt when you're farming, but you're also farming more salt with your gold. So you're just ultimately farming more and more salt, you know what I mean? Because gold comes fairly easy in this game. So if there's something you need to buy, like to upgrade a weapon or something of that nature, you know, you can always, you know, just go clear an area a few times and farm the shit out of some gold. And another thing I really loved about this game is it's definitely like Souls inspired, but it's definitely got its own little things, like I was saying, that add it like its own flavor to it. And one of these things would be the skill tree, this is just a massive skill tree, right? And the way that this works is there's 8 starting base classes, right? So there's 8 classes you can start as, right? Now, a couple of these are like the Popper. I feel like he's kind of like the waste of skin or whatever, and one's a chef. I don't know how well those two are. I haven't played those two yet, but those seem kind of like challenge characters, you know what I mean? And but so the skill tree, you start on any one of those that you pick, and then it branches out into like just this vast thing that you can end up, basically, if you play through New Game Plus however many times you want, which you can just keep playing New Game Plus, you can potentially have a character that's max level in everything and owns all of these. Because as you level, you get these pearls that you put into the, you know, into the skill tree, and that unlocks that skill. And, you know, this is dexterity, you know, rank 4 weapons, you know, such things of that nature. And I really love this unique way they did it. And there's lore on every single skill within the skill tree. Ridiculous amount of detail. And another really good parallel with that story in mind is that, like, even on gear, there's a story on items, there's story, you know, that you find from these NPCs throughout the world, you know, there's tons of story, and it's just drenched in that, you know what I mean? If you care enough and you read stuff, you could get lost in like this skill tree. I spent like 30 minutes the other night just reading all of these skills that were like more pertaining to the thief class. And I mean, like I said, like, this stuff like that, I love shit like that. That's easy, you know, like it's especially like in Mass Effect is like the perfect example. I remember a few missions that I was stuck on that I was getting angry at because I was playing it through on like hard or whatever, and I remember getting fucking pissed off and just sitting there and just literally just sitting in the ship and reading about all of the stuff through the codex, you know what I mean, that vast massive codex that was in that game. And so like I find, especially with this game, like, you know, like I said, I was on a boss I felt like I knew that I wasn't going to be able to beat because I was just too frustrated. So I was able to just go kick it in the sanctuary and read all this shit, you know, and mellow out for a while and fucking go and do the boss and get him down. And, you know, it gives you like just why they didn't have to do it, you know what I mean? Like, they don't have to do it. It's not necessary for them to add all of this extra shit that, you know, just kind of adds onto the world, you know? Like, for it's just $18 game, man. And it's vast. Like, it's vast. Like I said, 23 bosses. You know what I mean? 8 different starting classes. Character creation that includes face details, hair, fucking, you know, hair color, beard, you know, shit like that. All sorts of stuff. That just doesn't need to be there. It doesn't. Like, you know, I'm sorry. This is why I always have issue with these fucking people that are like, just, you know, they give excuses and passes to these games that are making millions of dollars because they cost millions of dollars to make. And you see these things that happen and you're just like, well, why was that allowed to happen? Like, why was Fallout 4 allowed to ship with fucking game breaking bugs? You know what I mean? Like, why was, you know, like fucking Destiny allowed to ship with fucking half its content shipped away? Why was The Division fucking able to ship with most of its content fucking cut away for season passes? You know, how was, you know, the list goes on and on, right? But it's excusable. I don't know how. I think it's mainly people that have bought it that just really feel like they should justify their purchase. I don't see any other reason for it, right? I don't. Because I don't see an excuse where it's okay for a company that's going to end up making triple or quadruple or fucking goddamn 10 times the amount as a fucking small indie developer like Ska Studios. That they're selling this game that's huge, massive, detailed, and I've ran into a few bugs, I'm not gonna lie. There's a few bugs. There was one instance where I went to parry someone, but there was also a note on the ground, and when I went to parry him, like, the note opened up to read, and for some reason it like chained me to him, so I was trying to roll away to dodge, but it was immediately pulling me back into him. It was fucking weird, but you know what I mean? $18 I paid for this game. And I've played it for over fucking, you know, 80, 90 hours at this point. And guess what? That's the only bug I can think of. 80, 90 hours in this game. Only bug I can think of. Right? So why is it okay, you know, and that's why these games to me are fucking, you know what I mean? Especially this one in particular. Now, don't get me wrong, a lot of indie titles are not fucking anything to write home about. If a game done 30 years ago did what your game is just now doing, and they did it better 30 years ago, then why are you even fucking doing it? You know what I mean? And that's the way a lot of indie games feel. And I understand why a lot of people are like, pfft, and they write it off, the whole fucking, you know, they write off the whole fucking group just because these fucking games that the industry seems to fucking love the most are fucking games that are just like, you're like, motherfucker, I played this 30 years ago and it was better. And I get you. You know what I mean? I see that point. There are games that are done ages ago that were better, right? You know, they built them 30 years ago and they had the mechanics down better. Okay, now this is not like that at all, right? If you take like combat stylings of like Castlevania and shit like that, you kind of got a vibe. If you add like jump puzzles like you got in Ninja Gaiden and fucking Batman, You know what I mean? You'll get a little idea of what that's about, the jump puzzles and the jump movements, and you get these all as you level up, so it's very Metroid style, where you're gonna get, after you clear an area, you potentially may get an ability that will allow you to traverse the environment into a new area, where you will then fight a new boss and unlock a new ability that will lead you to a new environment. See what I'm saying? See where I'm going with this? And that's how this goes. And I mean, this game is just... it's done so well. So well. And if I was gonna say, like, you know, when I do these, I usually say, is it worth the money I paid for it? And that's kind of like the determining factor of the game. And in this instance, it's not worth the money I paid for it. It's worth double the money I paid for it. They could have easily, in my opinion, charged $40 for this game and been fine with it. And like the thing about that is I wish that I kind of wish they would have. But you know what these guys do instead? They take a look at their situation and they think, okay, what can we expect to sell, you know, with this? And what, you know, and they actually give it a value price that will actually tantalize me into buying it more. $18, $17.99, opening day. Here you go, right? And that, like, the last one I could compare to this, that would be probably Axiom Verge, but this is done way better. I mean, but that's not to demean Tom Happ or anything like that, or Axiom Verge at all, because that game is fucking amazing, especially when you consider that it's the byproduct of one human being. You know what I mean? Like, obviously Scott Studios has more than one person working on this game, and it shows. And yeah, it shows hard work, it shows their love of the game, it shows their love of the Souls formula, it shows their love of just like, I mean, the art in this game. Like, they set the atmosphere like the same way that like Bloodborne does. And they do it in a 2D side-scrolly dinky fucking way, but like I still feel just as tense on the fucking nameless god as I did my first time fighting Gehrman. Right? Those two boss experiences were the exact same, and I'd venture to say they took me about the same amount of time to complete. Right? And that for $18 to get the same experience as like a $60 title. And I know that like Bloodborne, obviously it looks so much better, and it is infinitely, you know, honestly, it's a better game. It's a better game. But, you know, I feel like these guys, I mean, even just 30, like half the price of Bloodborne, I mean, you know, but you can't do it because, you know, the AAA games have set the standard for what value is, right? And apparently value is a lot of explosions and cool flashy things, and then, you know, I don't know, I like a little more heart and substance in my gaming experience, and that's what I got in Salt and Sanctuary, straight up. A lot of love, a lot of heart, you could feel it, and like, you got angry, but at the same time, there were things that kept making you want to keep going. When you would get mad and want to rage quit and say, fuck this game, there was something that would make you keep going. They did a good job of having a lot of stuff for you to do and a lot of areas for you to poke around in, so that if you're on a boss that's just a pain, you can go poke around, farm, level up, maybe find a new weapon while you're out there, maybe find some new gear, because I'm still finding new stuff, and like I said, I'm over 90 hours into the game. What more can I tell you? There's 23 bosses, man. There's 23 bosses in this $18 game. It's 23 bosses, and fuck, dude, I can't even say how many different areas. But it's big. It's just as big as like a Bloodborne in size, like scope to like your character and the environment. I'd say it's just as big as Bloodborne. You know what I mean? Obviously, there's a difference, but if you're comparing them to like your character size in Bloodborne to the size of the environment, and your character in Salt and Sanctuary in relation to the environment in Salt and Sanctuary, it's the same size as Bloodborne. I would say that with confidence. And I don't know, man, if you're not a fan of these old 2D side scrollers, but you're a fan of fucking the Souls, like, you should check this out, man. It might be up your alley, you might hate it, but I mean, it's $18. So I mean, what do you really have to lose? You know, just fucking don't go see the next 2 Tom Cruise movies. Save yourself that money and that headache. Anyway, guys, that's it for my critique and review on Salt and Sanctuary. Is it worth $18? Fuck yeah, it's worth $18. Worth every single fucking penny. Easily. They do the Souls games justice. They do Metroidvania style games justice. They do they do so much that's right here. The co-op is fantastic. I'm loving the co-op, playing it with my brother, you know, and it's just fucking awesome. I love it. I love this game. Go get it. That's it for me, Jaxxsin. I'm out of here. Love you guys. Take care of yourselves, and remember that just don't ever give up, man. Like, when you're in these situations, fuck it. Says the guy who rage quit Dark Souls. Later, guys.